Steal a Brainrot isn't just another Roblox game. It's pure chaos. The whole idea is stealing brainrots from other players, and even though it sounds simple, the truth is it has managed to hook millions of people around the world. Honestly, I'd even dare to say we're looking at one of the most successful games in Roblox history. Why? Because of its addictive mechanics, non-stop chaos, and insane events like the famous admin abuse, which turned normal matches into completely unpredictable experiences. Every round feels different. There's always tension, betrayals, laughs, and moments nobody sees coming. And that's exactly what keeps people glued to the game. But here's the thing. Behind all that chaos, there are a lot of hidden details, strange decisions, and in-game cases that most players never noticed or simply overlooked. Information that completely changes the way we see Steal a Brainrot, and that very few people actually know. That's why in this video we're going to analyze new cases, secrets, and interesting facts you probably didn't know, and that make this game even more fascinating than it already seems. This series has received an insane amount of support, and since this is the final episode of the trilogy, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. It genuinely helps the channel a lot and supports this kind of content. And now, with nothing else to say, let's start the video. The first case we're going to analyze has to do with some very special bases that, today, can no longer be obtained in any way. In Steal a Brainrot, there were several exclusive bases that were only available for a limited time and are now completely out of circulation. Among these bases were the Galaxy base, the Halloween base, and the Yin Yang base. Each one was tied to a specific mutation and could only be obtained by meeting certain in-game requirements, more specifically by completing a specific index. For example, the Galaxy base could only be unlocked if you managed to complete its entire index, which was far from easy and required a lot of time and dedication. The Halloween base, on the other hand, used the same index system but was considered the easiest to obtain, since you only needed around 23 brainrots, making it much more accessible for most players. Then there was the Yin Yang base, which was by far the hardest of all, because it required you to collect every brainrot available at the time. This made it an extremely exclusive base, reserved only for the most dedicated players. Later on, the Aquatic base was introduced, which followed almost the same system as the Halloween base, and also required around 23 brainrots to unlock. Overall, all of these bases were, at the time, some of the easiest rewards to obtain in Steal a Brainrot when compared to other in-game rewards. However, the situation today is very different. All of these bases are now completely impossible to obtain, as they were removed or disabled and never made available again, turning them into extremely rare items. And now, a fun fact that many players still argue about: the supposed candy base. When Steal a Brainrot was in its early stages, rumors, edited images, and alleged leaks started circulating about a base called Candy. Many players claimed they had seen it in the game, but the truth is that it was never confirmed or officially added. This case is considered a clear example of the Mandela effect within the community, very similar to what happened with the famous Moonrot base. While the candy mutation did exist, the base itself was never real, which only caused even more confusion and debate among players. The nerf to the bros is one of the most controversial moments in Steal a Brainrot, and many players still remember it with frustration. When the bros were first introduced into the game, they were insanely powerful. At the time, they could generate around 37.5 million, which was a huge amount back then and made them look like one of the best options in the entire game. However, that didn't last long. Just a few days after their release, Sammy decided to apply a nerf that drastically reduced the bros' performance. Almost overnight, they stopped generating as much, and all the effort players had put into getting them suddenly felt like a bad decision. If we take a closer look at the crafting cost and the resources required to obtain them, the outcome was pretty disappointing. Instead of profiting, many players ended up losing around 10 million, which caused a lot of frustration and anger within the community. What makes it even stranger is that although their price initially seemed justified because of how strong they were, to this day there's still no clear explanation for why they were nerfed so quickly. There was no prior warning and no well-explained official reason, which made the nerf feel unfair to a lot of players. The Taco combination and the Extinction combination were two of the most special and strange brainrots that ever existed in Steal a Brainrot. And no, they weren't like the others. These brainrots were completely different from the rest because they couldn't be obtained using the normal crafting machine that everyone knows. We're talking about limited edition brainrots with a very small number of copies, which made them extremely valuable from the very beginning. To craft them, it wasn't enough to just gather random resources. Players needed very specific brainrots and also had to meet certain in-game conditions, something only a few managed to do in time. This meant not just anyone could get them. Only the most attentive, dedicated, or well-informed players were able to unlock these combinations before they disappeared forever. And here's the key part. Once they were removed, they never came back. Because of their limited nature, both the taco combination and the extinction combination will never return to steal a brainrot. It doesn't matter how much you play, how far you progress, or how many brainrots you have today. There is simply no way to obtain them anymore. That's why these brainrots are now considered extremely rare pieces, almost like in-game relics. Owning one is clear proof that you were there at the right time, back when Steal a Brainrot was still in one of its most exclusive stages. The July 4th event was one of the very first special events in Steal a Brainrot, and for a long time, it was something very common and highly anticipated by the community. From the early days of the game, this event appeared regularly, and many players saw it as a normal part of the overall experience. For many veteran players, the July 4th event is a clear memory from the early stages of Steal a Brainrot. However, as time went on, the event stopped appearing without any prior warning. Updates kept coming, new events were introduced, but the July 4th event simply never returned. What makes it even stranger is that there was never an official explanation from the developers explaining what actually happened. To this day, no one knows for sure whether the event was completely removed, temporarily disabled, or simply forgotten. There were no announcements, statements, or clear hints to solve the mystery. Sammy's base was one of those bases that appeared during the admin abuse events in Steal a Brainrot and caught a lot of attention when it was added to the game. This base was available a few months ago, and for a while, several players were able to steal it and take advantage of it. However, since then, it hasn't been seen again, and to this day, it has never returned. Although there's no official explanation for its disappearance, personally, I think it never came back because it became obsolete compared to the game's current progression. When it was first released, the base made sense, but over time, Steal a Brainrot evolved very quickly. The brainrots included in this base were mainly designed for new players, helping them progress faster in the early stages. The problem is that nowadays most of the community already has a lot of progress, better combinations, and much stronger options. Because of this, Sammy's base lost its practical value as it stopped being useful for the majority of active players. Bringing it back to the game wouldn't have much of an impact, since almost no one would actually need it. These cases prove that in this game, being in the right place at the right time is everything. If you miss it, there's no going back. And who knows how much more content may have disappeared without most of the community ever noticing. If you enjoyed this video and the entire trilogy, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like because that supports the channel a lot and helps me keep bringing more content like this, well-researched and straight to the point. Let me know in the comments if you managed to get any of these rare bases or brainrots, or if you remember any other removed content that I didn't mention. And now, I'll see you in the next video.